I don't know how to sing, but somebody forces me and puts me on the stage and I sing, one of two things can happen. I can do a wonderful job that everybody loves it. Then I go, oh, what a facade. I didn't know that I had this talent. Next time somebody tells me to sing, I'll be the first one to volunteer. Or conversely, what can happen is I make a fool of myself. Next time I go, no, I'm not even going to come close to that. So if somebody, we claim that we are Muslims, and if a non-Muslim comes and asks us these questions, and if we don't know and we find out that the person knows a lot more than I do, unfortunately the latter scenario that I described can take place. So it's a good habit to be talking about. So like I said, there were no differentiation between being high and fast. So in the time of Khalifa Abdul Malik, the 685 to 705, that is when those lots were added. But afterwards we'll find out that there were, and that's where I would like some input and us to keep our minds open to see how that happened. There are certain versions in which the alphabets that we know are not the alphabets, like the one that I can say is like the letter A. It is supposed to have two letters on top. But in that particular version, and I guess in Algeria, even today they have those, there's only one dot. Noon, we have one dot on top. In that particular version, noon does not have, and it's consistent. And so I would like to know how those got preserved and how they came into existence. The last one was in 786, so that's almost like within 50 years of Prophet Muhammad's death. The diacritical marks, the Zair, Sabar, Page, Fatah, Dhamma, Kasra, those also got added. Next. And there are more later developments where more vocalization signs, like particularly in the Qurans that are printed in India, Pakistan, we have these Khara, Zair, Sabar, upright Fatah, upright Kasra, inverted Dhamma for long vowels. We have the concept of short vowels, long vowels, and in some of the versions that are printed, mostly in Middle East, they don't have those. Hamza, that got added. We say there are 28 letters, right? If you include Hamza, it becomes 29. Otherwise, there are only 28. And Alif and Hamza is the same. And in some of the scripts, I think I have a slide there. We'll come to that. Then ayah markings, and then another thing that happened was the development of different scripts, and this happened during the time of the Abbasid dynasty. The calligraphy, the art of calligraphy reached its zenith, and I guess Turkey was the center of scholarship in calligraphy. There were different schools of calligraphy that were formed, Kufi, Sulus, Nash, there are different development, I would say, back in those days that did not exist. And the other thing here is apparently people are trying to, I don't have a technology background, but the way I understand it, let me read. It's extremely difficult to render the full Quran with all the points. In computer code such as Unicode, the internal sacred text archive makes computer files of the Quran freely available both as images and in temporary Unicode version. Various designers and software firms have attempted to develop computer fonts that can adequately render the Quran. So those developments are also taking place. Now we'll go into the units of Quran. Quran is broken into surahs. There are 114 surahs. It's all agreed by everybody. Some surahs are long, some surahs are short. One thing that Dr. Isar says is that a lot of times in lectures we may have heard, or at least I have heard many times, people refer to surah as a chapter of Quran, we say. But he says that Quran is a unique book. We should not look at Quran as a book that we see in our worldly life. In our worldly life, the books that we read, we run into, they have like a table of contents, they have different chapters, and in one chapter, a certain point will be called out, and it will not be repeated in the next chapter. Say, for example, I'm writing a book on my autobiography. I probably will say my background, family background, all my family background will be in that chapter. I'll write about my childhood, everything that has to do with childhood will be in that chapter. My schooling, it will be in that chapter. But when it comes to Quran, the different surahs, topics sometimes get repeated. Like the story of Adam and Iblis, it seems it comes in 7 surahs. So this is a very unique book, and we cannot judge it with the scholarship that we do for worldly books. The Furqan Academy, I think, they want to give a copy of the translation, but for a person who does not have a true appreciation, understanding of Quran, can get slightly misled, because many times the Oriental people, when they read, they go, it does not make sense, this is not related to that. How do you make sense? Well, that is how the Quran was recorded, not in the sequence. In the sequence it came down, not in a historic perspective. And then some people, they explain, they say that Quran is like the khutbahs, like when a khatib is giving a Jummah lecture, he knows, like if supposing a khatib is talking about Bush, we know whom he is talking about. But after 100 years, 200 years, if the same thing is recorded, and somebody talks about Bush, they can go to the literal meaning of Bush, they can get confused, they can get confused from one khutbah to another khutbah to another. Names, they say the names of the surahs were either divine. Jibreel alayhi salam, he came and he said that for this surah called Surah Fatiha, or for this surah called this. Or some people, they say that Prophet Muhammad may have assigned, because in his hadith he uses the names of the surahs. We believe that the verses and certain surahs, they have miraculous therapeutic values. Tasmiyah is Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. The Qurans that we have, each surah starts with that. Some people think that that is part of the surah. Some people, they think no, it's a distinction between one surah to the another surah. So that is how it is there. Except for Surah Fatiha, where most scholars are of the opinion that Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim is part of Surah Fatiha. But in the salat that we recite, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he recited Surah Fatiha, he used to say Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim silently. The rest he used to say loud. I think we know all this. The total number of surahs is 114. First surah, complete surah that was revealed was Surah Fatiha. Last surah was Surah An-Nasr, according to most scholars. Surah is again broken down into ayat. Some people, they break or group the surahs as Makki surahs and Madani surahs. Makki surahs are when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in Mecca. He was in Mecca after he became the Prophet for 13 years. And that is where 2/3 of the Quran is supposed to have been revealed. And then after that he migrated, remember the Hijrat in 622, and he lived for 10 more years in Medina. That's where 1/3 of the Quran came down. Scholars that have studied, they say that the typical style of the Meccan surahs is they start with Ya Ayyuhan Nas, Ya Bani Adam, man, those kind of concepts. And then surahs, they're supposed to be in pairs. They have each surah, even though it looks like it's not making sense from our worldly knowledge point of view. Afterwards, when we talk about ayat, we'll say that so lots of people, they think that they use the word verses or sentences. For us, a sentence is something from a grammatical sense. It should have a subject, a predicate. Each sentence should make a sense. But that is not how it is for ayat. So the surahs are in pairs. They